Right, so that's baking now. It's got about 5 minutes to go till it comes off the bake. And then we're going to let that cool down for sort of 5–10 minutes, let all the heat come out of it. Then we're going to mix the epoxy primer up, which is sort of seal that polyester off so we don't get any trouble with that. And also any bits of bare metal that I rub through it, I give them a nice little coat, and it sort of seal all that off, ready for the primer.
All sounds a bit technical. Think you learnt it in Italian?
Yeah, it does get a bit technical. Just give it a good stir, you know. Sieve out any bits and pieces that might be in there. Basically, I'm just puffing the back in. I'm changing the gun at different angles to get the EP to flow in all the different angles of the door. I've got the gun slightly adjusted down so there's not as much materials coming out because I'm overlapping a few areas. And you don't want too much materials causing runs and things like that. And then I'm coming around the front, I'm using straight strokes with the gun at the same distance from the panel all the time. So you get a nice even coat on there. I don't sort of swing my arm because that would put more material in the middle than the edges. So I'm using straight sort of strokes which are overlapping each other, and as I'm coming to the edge I'm just pulling my finger off the trigger a little bit to stop the paint coming out, which would be sort of wasteful and that. That's it, she's all ready for baking again now.
Next job is to prepare the tintable primer. Now 100 cans of paint need stirring to make sure it all hasn't settled. There's two ways of doing that. One is using a stick like this. No, no, no. The other is to press this button and do it automatique.
We're going to mix up a bit of 285/95, which is a high solid tintable primer.
That's it for part one. Join us after the break when the paint job will be finished. There'll be a bit of spit and polish, and then you'll get to see the finished result. See you in a mo. Welcome back to A Car Is Reborn. We're in the final stages of a 6-week paint process in the restoration of my 1965 Series 1 E-Type Jag Roadster. Now, there's a lot of work to be done still on this car, but by the end of this programme, you will see a fully sprayed up and polished tub, bonnet, doors and boot. So that's the tintable primer all baked on now. Time for a bit of guide coat.
Right, this is wet flatting. Just going to give it a good old block and then should be ready for the top coat. I just put a tiny little bit of washing up liquid in with it just to give it a chance to sort of lubricate it a little bit, you know?
So how are we getting on with this then, mate?
Right, this has been EP'd and all the seams have been sealed up. Did that yesterday, so it's had a chance to dry. Nibbed off to get all the horrible bits off, and then we've sealed all the joints and that.
So how do you make sure then that you get the sealant into every last nook and cranny?
Just put a bit of sealer in there, So I'd squirt that in the joint there. Then I'd just brush it in, which just pushes the sealer right into the gap and makes sure that any air that's trapped in there just come out.
Right, big moment coming up. The tub's actually been moved in now for its first coat of the finish colour. While we get that sorted out, good opportunity for you to take a look at another racing classic.
Oh, this is tremendous. The roar of that straight six. Oh, brilliant.
It looks immaculate. How do you drive it? Do you look after it, or do you drive it as it should be driven?
Well, I'm afraid I drive it as it should be driven. When it needs to, it gets thrashed. That's what it was built for. I don't show it any kindness as far as sitting thinking, oh, I'm going a bit too fast here. The guys that rallied these cars must have been complete maniacs, because they would take these cars through the forest at 120 miles an hour. Well, the engine is basically a straight six 3000cc engine. It's a standard 131 brake engine as it came from the factory. So it's got no other modifications apart from slightly larger wheels.
What sort of top speed would we have out of it?
It's just under 120 miles an hour. Off its mark, 0 to 60s, just under 10 seconds.
I've always looked at Austin Healey's 3000s. I've been fortunate enough to drive one. I'm really looking forward to this experience.
Well, it'll be a schoolboy's dream, that's it.
Not quite right, but we're getting there. We're turning it in. A wee bit prone to a wee bit oversteer at the hairpin maybe. It's great traction. Great traction. Is the suspension everything all standard?
Yes, all standard.
It's going to take a while to wipe the smile off my face. This is tremendous one. You're going to have to get used to that. You're going to have to teach me.
To get used to it, just more revs.
There's not many cars that come down to second gear in this corner.
No.
Because this engine's so torquey.
So torquey, you don't need it, yeah.
You just waste so much time. A lot of standing water here, but I've got to say I'm impressed with the handling.
Yeah.
These conditions, this is great fun.